Hello students, in this video we are going to discuss about the plant kingdom, that is coming under the plant kingdom, the bryophytes. Okay, and we know that what are bryophytes. In the initial first part we already discussed about algae, bryophyte, pteridophyte, gymnosperm, angiosperm, and here in this video we are going to discuss about the bryophytes. Bryophytes, they are also known as amphibians of the plant kingdom. Why they are called as amphibians of the plant kingdom? The reason is that they can, what is meant by amphibians? Amphibians are the animals that can, or the plants that can live both in the land and the water are called as the amphibians. So here these bryophytes are known as the amphibians of plant kingdom. Why they are amphibians? They are living in the land, or on the land they are living in soil, right, but are depend on the water. For the sexual reproduction they require water, contact with the water. That is why they are called amphibians of the plant kingdom. So bryophytes are known as amphibians of plant kingdom because they live in soil and are depend on the water for sexual reproduction. They are found in the damp, humid and shaded localities. You can find that bryophytes are grown mainly in the damp, humid as well as the shady areas. And they play an important role in the plant succession on the bare rocks or soils. They usually play a important role in the plant succession on the bare rocks or soil. And their body is more differentiated than the algae. Algae, there is no root, stem like or leaf like structures, but here in the bryophytes their body is more differentiated than the algae, and the plant body is thallus like. Thalle is there and prostrate or erect. There the plant body is thallus like and prostrate or erect and attached to the substratum by the rhizoid, which may be multicellular or unicellular. With the help of unicellular or multicellular rhizoid, that is a root like structures, they are attached to the substratum. That is this plant body, that is a thallus like and prostrate or erect, and they are attached or um, adhere to the soil with the help of a rhizoid, that may be either unicellular or multicellular rhizoids, and they lack a true root, stem or leaf, but they possess, that is, root like, stem like or leaf like structures. It's a little similar structures they have. They don't have exact root, stem or leaves, but they possess a root like, stem like or leaf like structures. And the plant body of bryophytes is haploid, which produces gametes, hence is called a gametophyte. Here gametophyte is a predominant stage, dominated in the case of bryophyte. That is, the plant body of bryophytes is haploid, which produce gametes, hence called as gametophyte. And the sex organs are multicellular, and the male sex organ is called as the antheridium, which produces biflagellate androzoids or the sperms, and the female sex organ called as archegonia, a flask-like structure which produces a single egg. That is, they don't have, in the previous slide we said that it is little more differentiated than algae, but they don't have, they lack the true root, stems or leaf, but they have the root like, stem like or leaf like structures. And this plant body of bryophytes, they are haploid, that is single one and haploid, okay, and which produce a gametes. They have the haploid body which produce a gametes, that is a haploid gametophyte, and which produces a gametes. And the sex organs are the multicellular, and the male sex organ is called as antheridium, which produces a biflagellate androzoids, and the female sex organ is called as archegonia, a flask shaped structure that have or produces a single egg. And the androzoids, they are the male the androzoids, that is the biflagellated androzoids from the antheridium, and that releases into the water. From the antheridium, these androzoids or the sperms, that is biflagellated androzoids, that are released in the water, where they comes in contact with the archegonium. where they comes in contact with the archegonium. This archegonium, they have the egg, single egg cell is there, right? So this archegonium, that is a flask-like structures, and when this anthrozoids touches with the, comes in contact with the mouth of this flask-shaped archegonium, they enter into that archegonium and fuses with the anthrozoids. That is, anthrozoid fuses with the egg to produce a zygote, and this zygote which develops into sporophyte embryo inside the archegonium. That is, this anthrozoids, they are released by the antheridium and they are releasing into the water. That is why they are called amphibians, because they are growing in the soil and releasing out the sperms into, or the anthrozoids into the water, and once they comes in contact with this archegonia, or once it reaches the opening at the end of the archegonia, this anthrozoids enters that archegonia and fuses with the egg to form this zygote. Okay, and which this zygote is developed into a sporophyte embryo, that is actually taking place in the archegonium. And this zygote do not undergo reduction division immediately. Immediately they don't undergo any division. Instead they produce a multicellular body called sporophyte. Okay. Instead they produce a multicellular body, that is called sporophyte. And this sporophyte attached with a photosynthetic gametophyte to derive nourishment from it. That is, the sporophyte and gametophyte are attached together. They are not detached. They are attached and to derive the nourishment from it. Some cells of the sporophyte undergo reduction division. That is, one cell dividing into two and this again dividing into one. That is called 4 cells. One cell divided to form the 4 cells. That is meiotic division and produce haploid spores. And these spores germinate to produce the gametophyte. That is the life cycle of this bryophytes. The life cycle of bryophytes is that the antheridium, the male sex organs, and the female sex organ is the archegonium, and the gametophyte stage that produces gametes. Okay, and these anthrozoids are released from the antheridium into the water, and from in the water they comes in contact with the archegonium. And once they comes in contact with the archegonium mouth or the openings, what will happen? This anthrozoids enters that archegonium. That's a flask-like structure, right? It enters and fuses with the egg and produces a zygote. And this zygote develops or matures into a sporophyte embryo inside this archegonium. And this zygote immediately do not undergo any division. Instead, they produce a multicellular body called sporophyte. And this sporophyte is attached with the photosynthetic gametophyte to derive the nutrition or nourishment from it. Some cells of this sporophyte undergo reproduction division and produces a haploid spores. And these haploid spores germinate to produce a gametophyte. This actually alternation of generations is actually happening here. That is haploid gamete, diploid spores. Okay. That is, anthrozoids released into the water attached or comes in contact with the archegonium, and in the archegonium anthrozoid fuses with the egg to produce zygote, and this zygote develop into a sporophyte embryo that is inside the archegonium, and the zygote, instead of immediate reduction, they produce a multicellular body called sporophyte, and this sporophyte attached with the photosynthetic gametophyte to derive the nourishment from it. And some cells of the sporophyte undergo division to produce the haploid spores. That is, some cells of the sporophyte that undergo reduction division to produce the haploid spores, and these spores germinate to produce the gametophyte. And the classification of this bryophytes are classified into liverworts and mosses. The liverworts, they grow well in the moist, shady, like damp soil, marshy ground, bark of the tree, and deep in woods. That means they grow well in moist, shady habitat like damp soil, marshy ground, bark of the trees, deep in woods, etc. And the plant body is thalloid and the thallus is dorsiventral and are closely oppressed to surface. They are actually closely oppressed to the surface. They are actually like they are pressed down to the surface instead of the erect body. Okay. And they have a tiny leaf-like appendages arranged in the two rows on the stem-like structures. That is, bryophytes are classified into liverworts and mosses. Liverworts, they grow well in the moist, shady habitat like damp soil, marshy ground, bark of trees and deep in the woods. And the plant body is thalloid and this thallus is dorsiventral and closely oppressed surface or the substrate. They have a tiny leaf-like appendages that arrange in two rows on the stem-like structures. And they asexual reproduction. They have two reproductions mainly by asexual mode of reproduction and sexual mode of reproduction. Asexual mode of reproduction is by the fragmentation of thalli or by the formation of specialized structure called a gamet. That is, asexual reproduction by fragmentation, that is mainly by the fragmentation of the thallus or by the formation of a specialized structure called a gamet, and this gamet they are usually green colored multicellular asexual bud develop in the small receptacles called gamma cups that is actually located on the thallus. There is a thallus, there is a cup-like structure that is called gamma cups. In this gamma cups or the small receptacles, there forms a asexual bud, multicellular asexual bud that is called a gamet. Okay, that is asexual reproduction mainly by the fragmentation of the thallus or by the formation of a specialized structure called a gamet. That is, gamet are the green multicellular asexual bud that is developing inside or developed in a small receptacle inside a cup-like structure that is called gamma cups. Inside this, a green colored or green multicellular asexual buds are developed that is called a gamet. And this is usually located on the thallus. And this gamet detaches from the parent body and germinate to form the new individual. That is, this gamet detaches from the parent body and germinate to form the new individual. That is called fragmentation. And during sexual reproduction, male and female sex organs are produced on the same or on the different thallus. That is, the life cycle is actually in the sexual reproduction, male and female sex are gametes and sporophytes are forming. In asexual reproduction, they mainly by the fragmentation or formation of a specialized structure called a gamet. These gamet are the green multicellular asexual bud that is developed in a gamma cup, that is a small receptacle, and it is actually located on the thallus. And at last this gamet detaches from the parent body and germinate to form the new individual. But in the case of sexual reproduction, male and female sex organs are produced on the same or on the different thallus. The liverworts, the sporophyte is differentiated into foot, septa and the capsule. The sporophyte is differentiated into foot, septa and the capsule. And after meiosis, the spores are produced within the capsule. Inside the capsule, after the meiotic division, they produces the spores. That spores are produced inside the capsule. And these spores germinate to produce free living gametophyte, that is through the wind or the water. Anyway, they are actually released out. Once the spores matures, they are released out by the wind or the water and germinate to form a free living gametophyte. Okay. This is a structure pictorial representation. Here you can see that liverworts life cycle. This is the antheridium and this is the archegonium. Okay, this is the archegonial head is there. This is the antheridial head. This is the male gametophyte and this is the archegonia, that is a female gametophyte. And there is a thallus is that there is a flat leaf-like structure that is called thallae. And here you can see root-like structure, rhizoids. Okay. And here you can see that a specialized structure, a cup-like structure called a gamma cup, where gametes are developed, that is a buds, literal buds are formed, that is present on the thallus. And once this sperm from the antheridium released out, the water and comes in contact with the archegonium, what will happen? The sperms comes in contact with the egg and forms the embryo. This embryo matures and forms a sporophyte embryo, and they produces the spores. And these spores are haploid and are released, and they germinate to forms the rhizode or the gametophyte. Okay, that's the life cycle of the liverworts. Then comes the mosses. Mosses are small, non-vascular, flowerless plant in taxonomic division Bryophyta along the liverworts and hornworts. That means the liverworts and hornworts are the one group, and here another example of the bryophytes are coming under the bryophytes is the mosses. These mosses are the small, non-vascular, flowerless plant, and they are coming under the taxonomic division Bryophyta. And the plant body of the mosses is very simple. Examples of moss are Funaria, Polytrichum, Sphagnum are some common species of moss. And the moss undergoes several stages in the life. And here gametophyte stage is the predominant stage. In the life cycle, there are several stages in their life cycle, but among that gametophyte stage is a predominant stage or the dominating stage in that. Gametophyte stage, that means most of the time these mosses, they appear as a gametophytic stage in the green photosynthetic stage, and only once in a while they forms the sporophytic or diploid stage. And the gametophyte stage has this gametophyte, we told that in the life cycle gametophyte stage is the predominant or the dominating stage. Okay, and this gametophyte stage, they have the two substages, that is protonema stage as well as a leafy stage. So mosses, they are the small non-vascular flowerless plant coming under the taxonomic group Bryophyta. They are also coming, they are together with the liverworts and hornworts are there, and their plant body is a mosses. They are usually very simple. Examples of the mosses are Funaria, Polytrichum and Sphagnum. Then the mosses undergo several stages in the life cycle, but a gametophyte stage is a predominant stage. And the predominant stage, the gametophyte stage, that has a two substages, that is protonema stage as well as the leafy stage. In protonema stage, the spores develop into a protonema. What is my protonema? Is a creeping, green, branched and filamentous. There is a in protonema stage, the spores usually develops into protonema. A protonema, what is a protonema? Is a creeping, green, branched and filamentous form. And the second stage is a leafy stage, where the primary protonema, this protonema develop into secondary protonema as a lateral bud. Okay, that is, there are two substages in the gametophyte stage, that is the protonema stage and the leafy stage. In the protonema stage, the name itself is the protonema, that the spore develops into protonema. What is my protonema? They are the green, creeping, branched or filamentous forms. And the second stage is the leafy stage, where this primary initially formed a primary, that is a primary protonema that develop into secondary protonema as a lateral bud. And the bud consists of upright, slender axis that bear spirally arranged leaf attached to soil through branched rhizoids. Okay, that is, bud consists of upright, slender axis that bears spirally arranged leaves that is attached to the soil through branched rhizoids. There is a rhizoid is there, to that spirally arranged leaf that is attached with a slender or the stalk like structure axis. And the sexual organs develop, here sexual organ develops that joins together with the leafy stage. And the mosses reproduce vegetatively and sexually. Vegetative reproduction is by the fragmentation and by budding in the secondary protonema. That is, secondary protonema is a lateral bud, and by budding of that secondary protonema, new plants are produced, or by the fragmentation. In the sexual reproduction, male and female sex organs. In the case of sexual reproduction, male and female sex organs are produced at the apex of the leafy shoot. Male and female in the sexual vegetative reproduction, that is by the fragmentation or the cutting, and by budding in the secondary protonema. In sexual reproduction, male and female organs are produced at the apex of the leafy shoots. After fertilization, zygote develops into sporophyte, and this sporophyte is differentiated into food seta and the capsule. And the capsule that contains the spores that are formed after meiosis. After meiosis, meiotic division, the capsule that contains the spores forms the spores. Here in this picture, you can see that moss showing both gametophyte. The lower part, this is a leaf-like forms. The greener part is called as the gametophyte, and the stalk-like or the slender, extended or the erect portion, the tall stalk-like forms, that is called as sporophyte. Here from here, it's like a capsule is there. Inside the capsule, haploid spores are there after meiosis, and they are released to the environment. Here you can see in this picture, that is a life cycle of a typical mosses. That is, here you can see that this is a capsule. Capsule has an operculum. By opening one centimeter, is opened the operculum and the spores are released, and the meiospores, meiotic spores, that forms the rhizoid and form the bud, and protonema, primary protonema is formed. Okay, and when the spores develop into protonema, there is a green creeping formed, branched filamentous forms, and after that secondary stage, that is a protonema develop into secondary protonema as a lateral bud. Here you can see that bud forms is there, and this bud forms, they are attached here with the root like upon a rhizole. You can see that young gametophyte is there, mature gametophyte is there. Okay, and here see in the left side, here you can see that this is a male gametophyte, that is called as the antheridium, and female gametophyte, they are called as the archegonian. These are, they they have non-vascular leaves, non-vascular stems, and they have the rhizoids are there. This is a mature gametophyte. This is a young gametophyte. This is a bud. Bud is developed into young gametophyte which matures to form the mature gametophyte. And here for the fertilization, we can see that sperm from the antheridium head is released, and venter they actually receives that as an archegonial head that receives the egg, not the egg, spores, not the spores, sperm. Sorry. Okay, that is sperms that is released from the antheridium are received by the venter at the archegonial head and comes in contact with the egg and forms the sperms, comes in contact with the egg and forms the zygote. And this zygote, this is a archegonium, flat shaped, right? And here the neck wall is there, neck canal is there, and it enlarges. You can see that it develops, the zygote develop into early embryo, and finally they develop enlarged ventral wall. Sporophyte is there, foot, seta and capsule, and it has a developing calyptra. Calyptra, you can see that calyptra, see calyptra, and from calyptra, once the calyptra is removed, you can see that a capsule is there, and capsule that has the operculum or opening is there. Once this capsule matures, what will happen? Operculum get opened and the spores are released, and this meiotic division formed, or the meiospores, that spores are released and forms the rhizoid, and again the life cycle gametophyte stage, then the sporophyte spore stage. This alternation of generation is actually happening in the life cycle of the bryophytes. Next is the uses and the importance of the bryophyte. Mosses such as sphagnum provides peat which is used as a fuel, and moss also forms a dense mat, thereby allowing rainwater to percolate into the ground, and this prevents rainwater from running off and subsequently soil erosion. Bryophytes such as mosses are also ecologically important, and along with the lichens, they are always first to colonize the rocks. Moreover, they decompose as rocks and make the area suitable for growth of higher plants. Thus, we have seen that the bryophytes have several uses. There are several uses, and the importance of bryophytes, they are actually provide these mosses such as sphagnum that provides a peat which is used as a fuel. And mosses also forms a dense mat. They are allowing rainwater to percolate into the ground, and this prevents the rainwater from running off and subsequently it prevent the soil erosion. It's holding the soil and the water there and percolate into the ground. Bryophytes such as mosses are also ecologically important, and along with the lichens they are always first to colonize the rock. They colonize or keep attached to the forms a bee colony on the mosses on the rocks. Moreover, these mosses that decomposes the rocks and make that area suitable for the higher plants to grow. On the rocks also you can see that tall trees are growing in that area, bigger higher plants are growing in that area. That is, mosses helps to decompose the rocks and makes that area suitable for the growth of these higher plants. These are about the uses and importance of the bryophytes. Thank you.